Good morning, everyone. Today is the feast of St. Mark. Now, St. Mark was an evangelist. He wasn't one of the chosen disciples, one of the apostles. He wasn't one of the 12, but he was a companion or a follower of St. Peter. And St. Peter sometimes refers to him as my son, so he may have been a young man. It's interesting that in his book, which is the shortest of the Gospels, only 16 chapters, there's a one-liner in his Gospels which speaks about a young man who just had a loincloth around him, who was in the crowd, and they tried to grab him to associate himself, and they got the cloth, and he ran out of the cloth, and he ran away naked. That man's name is never given to us, and we might as well say to us, well, why did Mark include it? Well, maybe it's a way of him putting himself into the story, and perhaps in the similar way that St. John refers to himself as the apostle that Jesus loved most, but never actually gives his name. So we might find that is Mark who's appearing in our gospel, but just that's a little anecdote out of interest. But it is the end of the Gospel of Mark, and if we have a look at the end of the Gospel of Mark in our Bibles, you'll see that there are two possible endings. And this says to us that as the Gospel was put together, probably would have been put together maybe even after the death of Mark himself. It would have been put together by various other people. And they may have got to that stage where they had two possible endings, and rather than choosing between the two, they slotted them both in. And it does say that there are two possible endings there. So, the variance is probably a few verses. But I'll just mention that once again, if you're studying the Gospels, that is something that you may pick up. The gist of the passage that we look at the end of the Gospel is Jesus giving his instructions to the 11. And it is interesting that he's speaking to the 11 at this stage. If we have a look at the other Gospels where they talk about Jesus being assumed into heaven, that ascended into heaven, that he only has a couple of other disciples with him. But in this case, he's got all 11. And he's talking to them and he says, go out to the whole world and proclaim the gospel to all creation. There are some translations that instead of saying gospel, they say good news, which is where the Good News Bible gets its name from. They said, go and spread the good news, the gospel, to all nations. Go out. Don't just sit huddled around. And the disciples follow up on that, and they went all over many parts of the world to spread the news of Jesus. So we thank the Lord for St. Mark and for the disciples and the apostles especially for bringing his good news to us. You keep yourself safe and we'll see you again. God bless. Bye-bye.